a unified, progressive movements as a unified force essentially ended.
Absolutely.
In October 2023.
2023 was rough because the first kind of volley was June with the way that people reacted to Gay Pride Month and the LGBT stuff.
Bud Light, Target.
Yeah, all that stuff. And then with the additional response by the
cheering
left.
for Hamas.
Well,
I'm not saying every pro-Palestinian cheered for Hamas. I'm saying specifically in New York, there were several rallies where they have been consistently to this day cheering for Hamas.
100%. And you know, left-wing people are not idiots. They look at that and they're like, that's not, is that what we're doing? Is it, because that's not what I'm doing.
Yes, but hold on.
And honestly, so what you're seeing is...
Let me just say, Hassan Piker, the biggest left-wing live streamer to Gen Z and some younger millennials, adamantly criticizes Israel, supports Palestine. That perspective is still dominant and prominent among many on the left, and it's not going to break.
No, I think you're right. But what's happening is that any kind of I'll never forget a conversation I had with an FBI agent. We were talking about extremists, and I was like, so left wing has extremists. Why do they never form themselves into these? Like, you're out there trying to stop these groups that are violently armed on the right. Why does the left never have the same kind of armed figures?
And he said they do.
He said they destroy themselves before they can get to that point. He said
fair point.
They annihilate they have so little solidarity that they annihilate themselves before they can ever get to the point where they form themselves into actual units.
This is a really good point because I completely agree.
Yeah,
there are Antifa cells. There are
but they are the most powerless people on earth. They are useless.
But they are chaos.
They're intellectual chaos, and they're the same thing that you find of people who go and shoot up Walmarts.
And so the issue is, if the chaos builds too much, the system destabilizes and breaks.
Well, we're already seeing that. That's what we're talking about.
Right. So I do agree that with something like right-wing militias, they understand hierarchy and authority and solidarity better than the left does. But the left has this bulk low tier in large numbers. Yes,
but it's also, you have to understand that they're institutions and they've been largely based in institutions. Like, I went to the 2018, a lot of these things happen on campuses and so on, in humanities departments and campuses are falling apart. Like, if that's your enemy,
I don't think that's the issue.
That's the weakest enemy that you can have.
That's why I don't think it is. I think big tech is the issue.
Well, and that's for all of us. Yeah, that's the honest thing we could be united with.
The big danger with the left is the destabilization that the left does, causing the government to react by coming down on the whole populace.
Oh no, but that's everyone. I mean, that's you got people firing at the FBI from the right. I mean, the chaos that's coming is definitely the fringes of both. This is what happens this is what happens in other countries, right? So it's not you can blame people and you can say oh, this one's worse than this one, but the point is the chaos comes from everyone.
That's what happened not to bring up I hate to bring up Hitler, but the whole reason we've
lost. We all gotta go.
But the reason that we're
live streaming conversations about Hitler.
I'm not talking about him, but I'm talking about the Weimar Republic. The fighting between the left and the right in the streets is why the people called for a strong government to stop the fighting. So we're not talking about Hitler himself. I'm talking about the people beforehand.
Weimar's close enough.
I gotta go.
Come on now.
I gotta go.
The shot heard, in my opinion. The shot heard around the world for the next civil war, should it happen, will likely come from the right and not the left.
Oh, yeah. The odds of that are 50-4.
And it's not because I am saying that there's a far fringe right-wing extremist who's going to go to a racist act. No. The left is a destabilizing force. I call them chaos. I call them fire. But the right, what I fear is, I mentioned the border. The shot heard around the world is not going to be a bunch of people pulling up some new flag of, a new American flag or whatever and screaming revolution. It's going to be 14 guys in a militia saying the federal government is in defiance of state law and federal law, and we're going to go set up our own checkpoint on this road. The federal government will pull up and be like, we're the authority here, and they're going to say, you guys are in violation of the law.
That's chapter 1 of the next Civil War.
Exactly. It is not the left that's going to do this. The left is going to do stupid things like throwing firebombs and acting like wild
property
chaos.
Crime.
Low-level violence.
Low-level property crime.
Widespread.
Property crime.
But
they're much more likely to do that.
This is why I said watching the federal government raise the razor wire to allow lawbreakers to break the law is terrifying to me, because that is the catalyst for a vigilante. I can't even call it vigilante because they're effectively operating on the side of the law. But more importantly, you have the risk of state versus federal violence. If Texas says enough, they are in violation of state and federal law, the National Guard will go in and stop the CBP from breaking the law. Now you've got government versus government.
No, that to me is highly unlikely. I mean, I looked at that scenario. I talked it over with the colonel who drew up. Like that's.
I don't know.
That would just be no, because first of all, one of the more interesting things that the U.S. military did was, like in every other country, it tends to work by these battalions that are formed in local communities, and that's like, you know, in Alberta, like when you get the soldiers for the Canadian military, they come from the same towns and the same farm towns, and they fight. U.S. after the Civil War, the U.S. was like,
nope,
we're not doing that.
Because what happens is...
Yeah, because then it's like suddenly you got someone in the military who's from Georgia, and like, do they owe their loyalty to Georgia or to the U.S.?
So this was literally the Civil War.
Yeah.
You had all these West Point graduates.
And they left.
And a great question by, was it Stonewall Jackson maybe? He was Virginia, right?
Yeah.
He wrote something about his loyalty to the United States, but the questions of his loyalty to his home, to his neighbors, and his community.
Well, that was Robert E. Lee.
Robert E. Lee.
Robert E. Lee had that famous comment where because
Right.
he was the star of West Point. He was like the
and then he was
the
like,
shining light, and he was like, "Oh, I'm a Virginia first."
my family.
Yeah.
So my fear is...
And that was like, you know, the thing that was very interesting about that is like the United States was plural before the Civil War.
That's right. The famous line from National Treasure.
Oh, is that in there? Yeah.
Nicolas Cage says, before the Civil War, it was the United States are.
Yeah.
And afterwards, it was the United States is.
That's right. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. That's, and so that's like, but the military really reflects that, right? So that particular conflict that particular scenario is not likely. However, if a county sheriff does such a thing, and they easily could.
Well,
then you really could have. I mean, that's what the U.S. military has actively planned for.
My fear is the circumstance that we're witnessing. I mean, look, it's not the first one. You've got videos of CBP snipping the razor wire.
Yeah, this has been happening for years.
But
and California did the same thing too.
The issue is there is only one answer. Either we do not uphold the law and the law no longer exists.
Yeah.
Or the law is upheld, and the federal government, what needs to happen is, if you are going to take the lawful good approach of, we abide by the rules of this nation, we are a nation of laws, the sheriff must arrest the CBP who are cutting the barbed wire.
Then you have a real, well, see, that would be the sheriffs, the constitutional sheriffs have their own point of view on this legally. The federal government has an entirely different point of view. That's
exactly right.
But I would also say that anyone who wants to go up against the U.S. military in any capacity, you're going to lose.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Name a war the United States military has won in the past.
Oh, they won them all. Like, have you ever read that? Have you ever read that?
Wait.
You're talking about two different people.
Well, no. It's easy to win
it.
it. Like, why? Have you ever read the book Why We Lost by?
Afghanistan,
about Afghanistan,
Iraq,
it's about Afghanistan,
Vietnam,
Korea.
Korea.
You're conflating.
You
two
literally
things.
read this book and you're like, why? When does the losing start? Like, they win every single battle.
That's because you're conflating
Vietnam.
two things. You're conflating that you're
They win
conflating military
Vietnam's
capability with political ends.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah, but
I mean,
it's like the U.S. military doesn't lose engagements.
Yeah,
they win every engagement.
Exactly.
It's the policymakers that fail in the policy. They fail in what policy is attainable. They fail in deciding what we should use the military for. But the military doesn't lose.
No. You're right. They win engagements.
Yeah.
But Afghanistan is a really great example of we lost.
Oh, well, I remember one of the great stories a journalist told me about Afghanistan is he was like in Afghanistan, he was embedded with the Taliban. This was when they were fighting the Soviets. And he saw that one of the Taliban fighters was fighting with a flintlock rifle that had been taken from the British from 1878. And it had 1878 written on it. And he was like, whoever goes up against these guys is going to lose. Like, it doesn't like if you're fighting with a flintlock rifle, you're not going to lose.
You're going to kill that guy, but his kid's going to pick it up.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, like,
the point.
but that is the point of the next civil war, right?
So,
it's like you can control when they created the political space in Iraq for elections in the surge, the violence that they had to commit to do that was so great that it made politics irrelevant. And that's exactly what could happen in the United States, right? Like they would win against the sheriff. They would I mean, it would not be a contest. It would be like it would be like an NBA team playing against the YMCA pickup team.